Everyone to this live podcast on Twitch where you can get the news from the research industry that how our researchers keep on researching on various topics and domains and try to improve our lifestyle of course. So and yes, these articles are posted on our website named postscientist.com. So if you are willing to check it out, please check it out. Otherwise, listening to this podcast will be enough for you guys because it acts like an archive on a daily basis, providing you the information uh, and the discoveries out there. So let's get started without wasting any time. Hmm. Chemical in cells of marine organism enables them to survive high pressures found in deep oceans. Okay. Scientists have discovered how a chemical in the cells of marine organism enables them to survive the high pressure found in the deep oceans. The deeper sea creatures live, the more inhospitable and extreme the environment they must cope with. In one of the deepest points in the Pacific, the Mariana Trench, 11 kilometers below the sea surface, the pressure is 1.1 kilobar or 8 tons per square inch. That is a 1100 fold increase of the pressure experienced at this surface area. Sorry, at this Earth surface. Under normal or atmospheric pressure, water molecules from a tetrahedron like a network of water molecules changes shape. At high pressure, through the network of water molecules begin to distort and change shape. When this happens to the water inside living cells, it prevents vital biochemical processes from taking place and kills the organism. In reporting their findings, the researchers in Leeds have for the first time been able to provide an explanation of how a molecule found in the cell of marine organism counteracts uh, the effect of external pressure on the water molecules. Professor Lorna Dongan from the School of Physics and Astronomy at Leeds said life has adapted to survive and thrive in environmental extremes. In the depths of the oceans, organisms live under extreme high pressures that would destroy human life. These high pressure distort the liquid water that resides in all life, resulting in detrimental impacts to the biomolecules that underpin all biological purposes. We need to understand what happens to water under pressure and how pressure adaptive organisms combat these effects. If we understand how these organisms survive at extreme pressure, we can apply these findings to the wider study of biomolecular stability. Trimethylamine N oxide or TMAO, the molecule found in the cells that produce the protective effect against high external pressure, is called TMO, trimethylene N oxide. Studies have shown that the amount of TMO in ocean dwelling organisms increases in line with the depth of their habitat. Led by Harrison Laurent, also from the School of Physics and Astronomy, the study used one of the most advanced analytical facilities in the world to investigate how intense pressure alters the hydrogen bonds between neighboring water molecules. Neutron scattering, called the ISIS, neutron and muon sources, the analytical facility of the STFC Rutherford's Appleton Laboratory in Oxfordshire was used to fire a beam of neutrons, which are subatomic particles at samples of water with and without TMAO. The analysis was done at low pressure 25 bar and a high pressure 4 kilobar. The test revealed details of the atomic structure of the water molecules. At high pressure, the hydrogen bonds in the pure water sample become distort and less stable, and the overall network of water molecules become compacted. The presence of TMAO, however, strengthened and stabilized the hydrogen bonding and maintained the network structure of the water molecule. Dr. Lawrence said the TMAO provides a structure anchor which results in the water being able to resist the extreme pressure it is under. The findings are important because they help scientists understand the process by which organisms have adapted to survive the extreme conditions found in the ocean. From the study, the research team have also been able to develop what is called an multi sorry osmolyte protection ratio, okay, which predicts the level of TMAO needed in the cells of marine organisms so they can survive at a specific depth in the ocean. Professor Dongan added, our study provides us a bridge between water under pressure at molecular level and the wonderful ability of organisms which thrive under high pressure in depths of the ocean. Okay. Recently published research has revealed new species living at the bottom of deep seas. We are now understanding the remarkable adaptation that have allowed life to exploit these habitats. The scientific paper, the ability of trimethylamine N oxide to resist pressure, induce permutations to water structure, is published in the scientific journal Communication Chemistry. So these are the findings. These are the chemicals being taken. Chemical in cell of marine organisms enable them to survive high pressure. So it's being possible because the because camera or device being taken down to the deepest level of the surface area of the sea and or the ocean, so it will provide us the bridge. That's how this organism all gives those types of pressure under those conditions. So yep, if you're willing to check it out. We have provided you the link of the research also. So yep, moving on to our next topic. Incredible astronomers hail first images of asteroid impact. The asteroid is flying through space in the grainy black and white window when suddenly a massive cloud of debris sprays out in front of it, meaning only one thing: impact. Astronomers have hailed this early footage of the first time humanity deliberately smashed a spacecraft into an asteroid, saying it looked like it did a lot of damage. Hmm. That would be a good news because NASA double asteroid redirection test DART impactor struck the asteroid Dimorphos at 23,500 kilometers, 14,500 miles per hour on Monday night with the goal of deflecting its trajectory. While Dimorphos is 11 million kilometers, 6.8 million miles away and poses on no threat to Earth, it is being used as a historic test run so the world can be ready to defend itself if a future asteroid heads Earth's ways. Okay. After the impact, ground-based telescope and the toaster sites satellite Licia Q, which separated from DART a few weeks ago, revealed the first images of the collision. On the Licia Q images, the plume of what came off the surface was quite impressive. Antonia Barushki of the Paris Observatory Licia Laboratory told AFP, very big plume. The asteroid terrestrial impact large alert systems Atlas project on Tuesday tweeted uh, a 9-second video of the impact taken by its telescope in South Africa. Larry Denova, the Atlas co-principal investigator, said the telescope took one image every 40 seconds. So the whole sequence that you have seen on Twitter last about 2 hours in real time, he told AFP. He said the very big plume was made by dust shooting of the asteroid. A lot of the dust is released at a speed that's greater than the gravity of the asteroid, and so it escapes. Denua said the plume expanded to around 7,000 miles in diameter. He added, in the coming days and weeks, astronomers around the world will work to confirm whether the asteroid trajectory was definitely altered by the impact. Hmm. By examining the plume, we can begin to estimate the density of the material on the surface, she said. Then the European Space Agency Hera missions will arrive at Dimorphos in 2026 to survey the surface and discover the extent of DART's impact. Here's mission principal investigator Patrick Michael said, we are all impressed by the magnitude of the event. We have done a lot of damage to Dimorphos, Michelle said. We have a quantity of ejected matter that is quite incredible. The amount of matter ripped from the asteroid will help scientists work out exactly how much its trajectory has been affected, if at all. The more material is ejected, the more it diverges, said Eric Langdec, president of the French Astronomical Society. So it is a pretty good sign, he added. Of course, it is, and giving the many more information about the astronomers out there. And yes, I mean, it's unnecessary for Earth's surfaces and Earth to protect our Earth, to see our warning signs to from the outer space itself. So, yep. Moving on towards next topic. Chinese astronomer discovered more than 1600 new star clusters. Hmm. By analyzing the data from ESA Gaia satellite, astronomers from the China West Normal University have detected 1656 new star cluster in our Milky Way galaxy. The discovery was presented in a research paper published September 18 on the AR-ZIV preprint repository. In general, our star clusters are large gravitational bound groups of stars. They are pres- perceived as important laboratory for studying the evolution of stars and the cluster themselves. SC's star cluster are also good tracer for exploring the structure of the Milky Way. It is estimated that the Milky Way may contain about one 100,000 star clusters. The researchers suppose that many undiscovered clusters are still hidden in dense stellar regions. Now, a team of astronomers led by Xiu Hong, he reports the detection of more than 1600 SCs star clusters in the Milky Way disk. The discovery is based on the early third data release EDR3 from Gaia, improving the overall star cluster identified with the satellite to nearly 6,000. EDR3 provides more abundant stellar radial velocity, which offers a great opportunity to study cluster membership and kinematics. Our approach focused on searching for star clusters that were concentrated in position and motion in the galactic disk. The subsequent analysis was then based on astrometric data from Gaia EDR3. The new findings presented in this new work increased the cluster sample size by more than 30%, expanding the total number of galactic clusters to about 6,000, the researcher explained. The team performed a blind search of the galactic plane beyond 3900 light years from the solar system based on the EDR3 data. They employed DB scan, an unsupervised machine learning algorithm widely used in cluster searches. A result after clustering and cross matching and with existing cluster catalogs, the astronomer found 1656 new star clusters and more than 48,000 member stars. Photometric data of the new star cluster sample indicate that they had the appearance of a conventional cluster. Color magnitude diagrams CMDs and their size and the proper motion dispersion are also consistent with the currently identified clusters. It turned out that the new found star clusters are mostly located within 1600 light years away from the Earth. They are generally older than those located at closer distance, and they suffered from a significant greater degree of extinction than nearby clusters. This meant that the current cluster search was still affected by extinction, and since fainter old clusters were difficult to detect, it is reasonable to believe that there are many undiscovered clusters still hidden from Gaia view, the researcher concluded. All in all, most newly discovered star clusters were found to have the photometric signature of open clusters. However, the study also identified a cluster that resembles a globular cluster which received the destination of CWNU 1944. This cluster is located some 12,600 light years away and contains only evolved stars. So these are the findings been given by the Chinese astronomers, available in the Milky Way, in our own galaxy, known as Milky Way. So yep, moving on towards next topic, because we we have to cover lots of topics today. So a hydrogel that allows for quick bone dressing changes while minimizing pain. Hmm. An advanced hydrogel that promotes wound healing for second degree burns can be dissolved quickly and easily during dressing changes while minimizing pain and trauma for patients have been developed by bioengineers at Massachusetts General Hospital MGH. The state of the art biomaterial described in the journal Bioactive Materials is highly absorbent and based on Green's chemistry approaches that eliminate many toxic and reactive chemicals used in traditional wound dressings. Current dressing adhere to the wound and need to be surgically or mechanically debrided, resulting in delayed healing and traumatization of newly formed tissue. Not to mention excruciating pain of the patient, says Oberek Usta, PhD with the Center of Engineering in Medicine and Surgery at MGH. In collaboration with Tufts University, our team set out to create a supramolecular hydrogel that could be dissolved on demand for trauma-free and quick removal by the physician, thus reducing the need of analgesics and opioids as well as of hospital stays and costs. Hydrogels are placed directly on the wood covered by secondary gauze or protective dressing. They consist of a network of synthetic polymers cross-linked into mesh structure that is designed to retain water and create a moist environment to accelerate wound healing. What makes then MGH-TUF's biomaterial unique is a combination of factors, including the fact that it dissoluble in less than 5 minutes for easy patient care, using a solution that breaks apart the supramolecular structure of the hydrogel without any adverse effects on skin cells. In addition, the protective wound barrier can be assembled in around 50 seconds versus the lengthy and potential hazardous method of current hydrogel preparation, which may also be harmful to the environment due to their use and generation of toxic chemicals. And because of the hydrogel is a hybrid, it combines the mechanical or elastic properties comparable to those of a solid with the diffusive properties of a liquid for moist wound propagation. Hmm. Hydrogel dressing for timely and healthy burns wound healing have been around for years, but they are far from ideal and represent an area of intense investigation by scientists and bioengineers, explains A. Aslian Goka Luton, PhD and instructor in surgery at MGH and Harvard Medical School, and first author of the study. We successfully created a supramolecular hybrid hydrogel to eliminate painful wound dressing changes that may increase the risk of wound infection, leading to life threatening sepsis and multi organ failure. Another advantage of this first of its kind burn dressing is its anticipated easy adaptability to the consumer market. The simple and rapid method we developed to synthesize and assemble the hydrogel components will allow for large scale production and low cost commercialization, explains co author Asia Exkerton, PhD with Tufts University, and that will pave the way for translating their breakthrough science into viable therapeutic application in a field where there is still no recognized standard of care. Usta is an associate professor of surgery at the Center of Engineering in Medicine and Surgery at MGH and an associate professor of surgery at Harvard Medical School. HMS Askerton is an associate professor in the Department of Chemical and Biological Engineers at Tufts University. So, of course, I guess there is no need for explanation. So, we are moving on towards next topic. New strategy to precisely target subtypes of key protein. Hmm. Cyclosporine is one of the most common and effective immunosuppressant drugs used to treat chronic disease like arthritis and psoriasis but it comes with a risk of serious side effects. Scientists think that maybe because the drug broadly targets cyclophilins, a family of 17 regulatory proteins that have different roles in promoting cellular health, although each individual cyclophilin subtype has a unique role. Many current immunosuppressive drugs target the entire family, meaning the important unknown pathway may be accidentally turned off or otherwise altered. The problem is complicated by the fact that the active site where molecules bind is almost identical across all 17 cyclophilins, make it tough for drug makers to target specific subtypes. In a paper published today in Nature's Chemical Biology, scientists in the lab of Broad Institute Code member David Liu, who is also the director of the Merkin Institute of Transformative Technologies in Healthcare at Broad, in collaboration with the labs of Marcus Silligard at Sunny Stone Brook and Institute member Vamsi Mutha at Massachusetts General Hospital, have proposed a new solution. Rather than targeting the active site of cyclophilin proteins, researchers in a Liu's lab describe a process that finds compounds that bind to the exosite, a small pocket next to the active site that varies in size and shape across different cyclophilins. Using isolated protein in a test tube, the team discovered several compounds that exclusively bind and inhibit cyclophilin D, cypher D, protein involved in the unique and closing of mitochondrial pores. They also applied similar principle to discover unique selective inhibitors for cyclophilin E, cyclophilin CYP E. The author said that the study laid the groundwork for scientists to develop additional subtype selective cyclophilin inhibitors, some of which may be useful as tools for biology or as leads for therapeutic development. It's a new binding mode that takes the advantage of a pocket that peoples have fully explored yet. Lead author Alex Peterson, now a postdoctoral fellow at the Scripps Research Institute, who lead the project as a graduate student in Liu's lab, said, "It's kind of a blueprint for how people can design selective cyclophilin inhibitors going forward." Leveraging new and old technologies, Cypher D regulates the mitochondrial permeability transition pore MPTP, small pores located on the inner surface of mitochondria, famously known as the powerhouse of the cell. When CFD detects oxidative stress or high calcium levels, it rushes to open the MPTP, allowing water and other ions to rush in and out of the mitochondria. This opening of the mitochondrial floodgates can become a problem with the disease like ischemia, reperfusion injury, diabetes, neurodegenerative disorders, liver disease, and more. Since these conditions can cause abnormally high levels of oxidative stress, CFD holds the mitochondrial pores open for longer than usual, causing mitochondrial dysfunction, rupture, and cell death. It's been thought that drugs that slow down and inhibit CFD reactions to high oxidative stress might be used to treat a host of diseases. To track down compounds that exclusively bind to CFD, the team turned to DNA encoded small molecule libraries, a technology developed over 20 years ago as one of the first projects in Liu's the then new lab. Researchers can use the libraries which are filled with hundreds of thousands of synthetic compounds attached to unique DNA barcodes to scan for molecules that bind to desired proteins by mixing isolated CFD proteins and a collection of 256,000 unique DNA encoded compounds in a test tube. The team identified hundreds of promising compounds. Okay. Most of the initial compounds still bond in and around the active site, inhibiting multiple cyclophilin subtypes, so the team gradually made some chemical changes to their compounds to make them unique to CFD. Once they discovered that the exosite was the key to developing subtype-specific inhibitors, they were able to design a pair of compounds that potentially inhibit CFD while minimally minimally affecting other cyclophilins, X-rays, crystals, structures of the safety protein, and the innovators during development gave the team a behind the scene look at the precise location where their molecules were binding. The researchers then treated isolated mitochondria with their two leading compounds and observed they were effective in slowing down CIFD opening of mitochondrial pores. The mirror image of the compounds which do not inhibit CIFD did not show activity in mitochondria. To prove that their success wasn't an isolated incident, they repeated the strategy again for CIFE, a cyclophilin responsible for regulating mRNA processing. Once again, they developed a compound that exclusively targeted and left the remaining 16 cyclophilins unfazed. The team hopes their finding can ultimately help biologists and drug makers build better and more specific cyclophilin targeting drugs. They even gave future scientists a leg up because of the safety targeting compounds who struggle to enter human cells on their own. The team tweaked them by adding ester derivatives that effectively bypass the plasma membrane and deliver into mitochondria. Our teamwork eventually allowed us to conquer this long-standing problem. How do you selectively inhibit just one cyphophilin subtype out of 17? Said Liu, who is also a Howard Hughes Medical Institute investigator in the future molecules that come from using our strategy will, I hope, prove to be useful both for science, for basic science, and potentially for therapeutics. So, once again, targeting the subtypes of proteins given by, in our human body. So, yep. Moving on towards next topic. Scientists bring the fusion energy that lights the suns and stars closer to reality on Earth. Interesting, right? Let's read it. Physicists at the US Department of Energy DOE Princeton Plasma Physics Laboratory PPPL have proposed the source of the sudden and puzzling collapse of heat that precedes disruption that can damage Doubtnut shaped tokamak fusion facilities. Coping with the source could overcome one of the most critical challenges that future fusion facilities will face and bring closer to reality the production on Earth of the fusion energy that drives the suns and the stars. Researchers trace the collapse to the 3D disordering of the strong magnetic fields that bottles up the hot, charged plasma gas that fuels the reactions. We propose a novel way to understand the disordered field lines, which was usually ignored or poorly modeled in the previous studies, said Mingyu Yu, a postdoctoral research at PPPL and lead author of a physics of plasmas paper selected as an editor's pick together with a figure page on the cover of the July issue. Yu has since become a staff scientist at General Atomics in San Diego. The strong The strong magnetic fields substitute in fusion facility for the immense gravity that holds fusion reaction in place in celestial bodies. But when disordered by plasma instability in laboratory experiment and field lines allow the super hot plasma heat to rapidly escape confinement, such million degree heat crushes plasma particles together to release fusion energy and can strike and damage fusion facility walls when released from confinement. In the major disruption case, field lines becomes totally disordered like spaghetti and connect fast to the wall with very different length, and said principal research physicist Vianxing Wang used triple P L advisor and co-author of the paper that brings enormous plasma thermal energy against the wall. Fusion combines the light elements in the form of plasma, the hot, charged state of matter composed of free electron and atomic nuclei that generate massive amounts of energy. Plasma contains free electron and atomic nuclei, odd ions, and comprises 99% of the visible universe. Scientists around the world are seeking to capture and control the fusion processes on Earth to create a clean, carbon free, and virtually inexhaustible source of power to generate electricity. Hills and valleys. What haven't previously been known was the 3D shape or topology of the disarid field lines caused by turbulent instability. The topology forms tiny hills and valleys, you explains, leaving some particles trapped in valleys and unable to escape confinement while others roll down the hills and impact the walls of the facility. The existence of these hills is responsible for the fast temperature collapse, the so-called thermal quench, as they allow more particles to escape to the tokamak wall. You said what we showed in the paper is how to draw a good map for understanding the topology of the field lines. Without magnetic hills, most electrons would have been trapped and could not produce the thermal quench observed in experiments. Triple PL scientists stimulated the thermal quench topology as a complex 3D structure rather than a simple 1D structure as it had been pictured. In doing so, the researcher avoided common simplifications that could mislead the physics. What made the topology difficult to understand was the complex interaction between the electric and magnetic fields inside the facility you exceed. Triple PL researchers unraveled the interaction using the laboratory GTS code, which simulates the effect of turbulent instability on a particle movement. The code revealed that the electric field produced in facility acts to kick particles among spaghetti like stochastic magnetic field lines and then facilitates the motion of trapped particles along the field lines that give rise to the thermal quench. This research provides new physical insights into how the plasma loses its energy towards the wall when there are open magnetic field lines. You said the new understanding would be helpful in finding innovative ways to mitigate or avoid thermal quenches and plasma disruption in the future. So these are the findings given by the scientists. That's how the fusion energy lights the sun and star closer to reality on the earth. So yep, it's great. It's going to be used in various applications for sure, and yes, many parts areas like in the laser, in the quantum networks, and many parts of the sciences. Sorry, many parts of the domains. So great. Uh, he deserved it. Okay. Moving on towards next topic, machine learning method shows neuro degenerative disease can progress in newly identified patterns. Hmm. Neurodegenerative diseases. Neurodegenerative diseases like amio- amyotrophic laters, sclerosis, ALS, or Lewis Gregg disease, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's are complicated, chronic elements that can present with a variety of symptoms, worsen at different rates, and have many underlying genetic and environmental causes, some of the which are unknown. ALS in particular affects a voluntary muscles movement and is also fatal, which but while most people survive for only a years after few years after diagnosis, others live with the disease of decades. Manifestation of ALS can also vary significantly. Often, slower disease development correlates with onset in the limbs and affecting fine motor skills, while the more serious bulbar ALS impacts on swallowing, speaking, breathing, and mobility. Therefore, understanding the progression of disease like ALS is critical to enrollment in clinical trials, analysis of potential intervention, and discovery of root causes. However, assessing disease evolution is far from straightforward. Current clinical studies typically assume that health declines on a downward linear trajectory on a symptom rating scale and use their linear models to evaluate whether drugs are slowing disease progressions. However, data indicate that ALS often follows nonlinear trajectories with periods where are stable, alternating with periods when they are rapidly changing. Since data can be sparse and health assessment often rely on subjective rating, metrics measured at uneven time intervals and comparison across patient population are difficult. These heterogeneous data and progression in turn complicate analysis of invention, effectiveness, and potentially mass disease origin. Now, a new machine learning method developed by researchers from MIT, IBM Research, and elsewhere aims to better characterize ALS disease progression patterns to inform clinical trial design. There are groups of individuals that share progression patterns. For example, some seems to have really fast progression ALS and others that have slow progressing ALS that varies over time, says Divya Ramamurthy, PhD research specialist at MIT and lead author of a new paper on the work that was published this month in Nature Computational Sciences. The question we were asking is, can we use a machine learning to identify if and to what extent those types of consistent patterns across individual exist? The technique indeed identified discrete and robust clinical patterns in ALS progression, many of which are non-linear. Further, these diseases progression subtypes are consistent across patient population and disease metrics. The team additionally found that the method can be applied to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease as well. Joining Ramamurthy on the paper are MIT, IBM, Watson, AI Lab members Ernest Frankel, a professor in the MIT Department of Biological Engineering, research scientist Soumya Ghosh of IBM Research, and principal research scientist Kenny Ng, also of IBM Research. Okay, reshaping health decline. After consulting with clinicians, the team of machine learning researchers and neurologists let the data speak for itself. They designed an unsupervised machine learning model that employed two methods: Gaussian process regression and digital process clustering. These infrared the health trajectory directly from patient data and automatically grouped similar trajectories together without prescribing the number of clusters or the shape of the curves, forming ALS progression subtypes. Their method incorporated prior clinical knowledge in the way of a bias for negative trajectories consistent with expectation for neurodegenerative disease progression but did not assume any linearity. We know that a linearity is not reflective of what's actually observed, says NG. The methods and models that we use here, here were more flexible in the sense that they capture what was seen in the data without the need for expensive label data and prescription of parameters. Primarily, they applied the model to five longitudinal datasets from ALX clinical trials and observational studies. They used the gold standard to measure symptom development, the ALS function rating scale revised, ALS SVRs, R, which captures a global picture of patient neurological impairment but can be a bit of a messy metric. Additionally, performance on survivability, probabilities, force, vital capacity, a measurement of respiratory function, re- respiratory function, and subscores of ALS force R, which looks at individual bodily functions, were incorporated. New regimes of progression at utility. When their population levels model was trained and tested on this metric, four dominant patterns of disease popped out of the many trajectories: sigmoidal, fast progression, stable, slow progression, unstable, slow progression, and unstable, moderate progression, many with strong nonlinear characteristics. Not elevate capture trajectories where patient experience a sudden loss of ability called a functional cliff, which would significantly impact treatments, enrollment in clinical trials, and quality of life. The researcher compared their method against their commonly used linear and nonlinear approaches in the field to separate the contribution of clustering and linearity to the model's accuracy. The new work outperformed them even patient-specific models and found that subtype patterns were consistent across measures. Impressively, when the data were withheld, the model was able to interpolate missing values and critically could forecast future health measures. The model could also be trained on one's Alzheimer's R dataset and predict clusters membership in others, making it robust, generalizable, and accurate with scarce data so long as 6 or 12 months of data were available. Health trajectories could be inferred with higher confidence than conventional methods. The researcher approach also provides insight into Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, both of which can have a range of symptom presentation and progression. For Alzheimer's, the new techniques could identify distinct disease patterns, in particular variation in the rates of conversion of mild to severe disease. The Parkinson analysis demonstrated a relationship between progression trajectories of medication scores and disease phenotypes such as the terror dominant or postural instability gait difficulty form of Parkinson's disease. The works make significant strides to find the signal amongst the noise in the time series of complex neurodegenerative disease. The patterns that we see are reproducible across studies, which I don't believe had been shown before, and that may have implication for how we subtype the ALS disease, says Frankel. As the FDA has been considering the impact of non-linearity in clinical trial designs, the team notes that their work is particularly pertinent. As new ways to understand disease mechanism came online, this model provides another tool to pick apart illness like ALS, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's from a system biology perspective. We have a lot of molecular data from the same patients, and so our long term goals is to see whether there are subtypes of the disease, says Frankel, whose lab looks at cellular changes to understand the etiology of disease and possible targets for cures. One approach is to start with the symptoms and see if people with different patterns of disease progression are also different at the molecular level. That might lead you to a therapy. Then there's the bottom up approach, when you start with the molecule and try to reconstruct biological pathways that might be affected. We are going to be tackling this from both ends and finding if something meet in the middle, of course. So, yep. I mean, of course, many of the scientists moving on towards machine learning algorithms. So, right. So, okay. Moving on towards next topic. Engineer discovered new progress for synthetic material growth, enabling soft robots that grow like plants. An interdisciplinary team of University of an interdisciplinary water break. An interdisciplinary team of University of Minnesota Twin Cities scientists and engineer has developed a first of its kind plant inspired extrusion process that enables synthetic material growth. The new approach will allow researchers to build better soft robots that can navigate hard to release places, complicated terrain, and potentially areas within the human body. The paper is published in the Proceeding of the National Academy of Science, PNAS, a peer reviewed, multidisciplinary, high impact scientific journal. This is the first time these concepts have been fundamentally demonstrated, said Chris Ellison, a lead author of the paper and professor in the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, Department of Chemical Engineering and Material Science. Developing new ways of manufacture are paramount for the competitiveness of our country and for bringing new products to people. On the robotic side, robots are being used more and more in dangerous remote environments, and these are the kinds of areas where this work could have an impact. Soft robotics in an emerging field where robots are made of soft, pliable materials as opposed to rigid ones. Soft growing robots can create new material and grow as they move. These machines could be used for operation in remote areas where humans can't go, such as inspecting or installing tubes underground or navigating inside the human body for biomedical applications. Current growing robots drag a trail of solid material behind them and can use heat and or pressure to transform that material into a more permanent structure, much like how a 3D printer is fed solid filament to produce its shaped product. However, the trail of solid material gets more difficult to pull around bends and turns, making it hard for the robots to navigate terrain with obstacles or winding paths. The University of Minnesota solved this problem by developing a new means of extrusion, a process where material is pushed through an opening to create a specific shape. Using this new process allows the robot to create a synthetic material from a liquid instead of a solid. We were really inspired by how plants and fungi grow, said Matthew Hunselton, first author of the paper and a PhD student in the University of Minnesota Twin Cities Department of the Chemical Engineering and Material Science. We took the idea that plants and fungi had materials at the end of the bodies, either at the root tips or at their new shoots, and we translated that to an engineering system. Plants used to transfer the building block that can transform into solid roots as the plants grow outwards. The research were able to mimic this process with synthetic material using a technique called photopolymerization, which uses light to transform liquid monomers into a solid material. Using this technology, the soft robots can more easily navigate obstacles and winding paths without having to drag any solid material behind it. This new process also has application in manufacturing since the researcher technique only use liquids and light operation that use heat, pressure and expensive machinery to create and shape material might not be needed. A very important part of this project is that we have material scientists, chemical engineers and robotic engineers all involved, Ellison said. By putting all of our different expertise together, we really brought something unique to this project. And I am confident that no one have us could have done this alone. This is the great example of how collaboration enables scientists to address really hard fundamental problems while also having a technical impact. Hmm. In addition to Ellison and Hosseldon, the research team included University of Minnesota Department of Department of Chemical Engineering and Material Science researcher Bodon Zua, postdoctoral researcher, and a Lord Francis College of Science and Engineering distinguished professor, and University of Minnesota Department of Mechanical Engineering researcher Tim Kulvatsky, associate professor, and Matthew Kubala, graduate student. So, yes, these are the things, these are the findings given by the engineer discoveries, new processes. Of course, okay, moving on towards next topic, bio-inspired localization systems slashes power consumption. Hmm. Okay, let's see. Inspired by Barn Owls, researchers have developed an innovative localization system that combines state-of-the-art sensors with a neuromorphic computational map based on resistive random access memory (RRAM). As we enter the era of pervasive computing, and more of everyday objects are being embedded with microprocessor to help our lives run smoothly. Of course, to achieve this, the system need to be operated continuously and waste minimal energy, all while extracting useful and compact information from noisy and often incomplete data captured from several sensors in real time. Thanks to their in-memory event-driven computing capabilities, hybrid memorized complementary metal oxide semiconductors CMOS neuromorphic architecture provide an ideal hardware substrate for such tasks. Researchers supported in part by the MEM scales project set out to demonstrate the full potential of such a system. To this end, they develop a bio-inspired event-driven object localization system that couples advanced electric micro machine ultrasound transducers PMU2 censored with a neuromorphic computational map based on RRAM. Their paper published in the journal Nature Communication describe how the proposed neuromorphic approach has made it possible to reduce power consumption by 5 orders of magnitude compared with the conventional localization system based on microcontrols inspired by nature. Inspiration for the system was drawn from the barn owl's neuro anatomy. Our proposed solution represent a first step in demonstrating the concept of biological inspired system to improve efficiency in computation. Note studies senior author Dr. Alicia Vinello in a news item posted on double E times. It paves the way towards more complex systems that perform even more sophisticated tasks to solve real world problems by combining information extracted from different sensors. We envision that such an approach to conceive a bio-inspired system will be a key to build the next generation of edge AI devices in which information is processed locally and with minimal resources. In particular, we believe that small animals and insects are a great source of inspiration for an efficient combination of sensory information processing and computation. Thanks to the latest advancement in technology, we can couple innovative sensors with advancement RRAM computation to build ultra low power systems, states Dr. Vinelio, who is a senior scientist at Electronics and Information Technology Laboratory CEA Leti for of MEM scales project coordinator French Alternative Energies and Atomic Energy Commission in France. The research team conducted measurements of the system consisting of RRAM based coincidence detectors, delayed line circuits, and a full custom ultrasound sensor. They used the experimental result to calibrate the system level simulation. These simulations were then used to estimate the object localization models, angular resolution, and energy efficiency. The result showed much greater energy efficiency than a microcontroller performing the same task. The goal is also, as always, to get the best power efficiency for the level of performance needed by a specific application. Further improvements in energy efficiency are certainly possible with our system, observed Dr. Vinalio. The study demonstrated that combining visual sensors such as dynamic vision sensor cameras with a PMU2 based hearing sensor should be explored to develop future consumer tools. The MEM scales memory technologies with multi-scale time constant for neuromorphic architecture projects ends in June 2023. So these are the things given once again localization of from the biology itself and providing the uh, giving more more data, more processing speed, more efficiency, more faster than any other thing. Of course, it's a requirement. So we're moving on towards next topic: how differentiate conditions impact performance of solar cells connected in series. Hmm. Large Obstacles like clouds and buildings can block sunlight from reaching solar cells, but smaller sources such as dust and leaves can also create similar problems. Understanding how the loss of incoming transition affects power output is essential for optimizing photovoltaic technology, which converts light into electricity and is an important contributor to the green energy transition. In the Journal of Renewable and Sustainable Energy, researchers from Shanghai Polytechnic University, Shanghai Engineering Research Center of Advanced Thermal Functional Materials, and Shanghai Solar Energy Research Center Co. Limited explored how different shade condition impact performance of single solar cells and two cell system connected in series and parallel. In the real world, photovoltaic cells are sometimes shaded by obstacles, which significantly alters the amount of incoming light, said author Hengwang Zi of Shanghai Polytechnic University and Shanghai Engineering Research Center of Advanced Thermal Functional Material. The degradation effects make power optimization difficult and result in significant power loss. Hmm. Photovoltaics connected in series create a single path with electron flowing from one cell into the next. In contrast, cell is a parallel provide two lanes for electron to travel through, then recombine later. In practical application, networks of solar cell are connected in series and parallel to expand the output current and power capability. The team found that the decrease in output current of a single cell or two cells connected in parallel was nearly identical to the ratio of shade to sunlight. However, for two cells running in the series, they would excess power loss and a rise in temperature, which can cause further output degradation. For example, with 29.6% of the series photovoltaic module in the shade, the current decrease of 57.6%. A study indicated that many factors, including shadow area, shadows on different cells of the module, and the connection of cells and modules, may affect the performance, said Z. Previous studies have explored the consequence of the shade on large photovoltaic modules, but have largely ignored single cells and simple systems. In these complicated systems, shadows on one single cell may play a vital role on the system output and reliability, said Z. Therefore, studying single cells or a simple arrangement of two connected cells is necessary for solar panel development. In the future, the author hoped to examine the microscopic interaction behaviors and mechanism in photovoltaic cells subjected to different shadows. The article, experimental study on the power losses of a single photovoltaic cells and two series and parallel connected cells with partial shadows, is authored by Zhengzuo Gu, Zhoupi Zhou, Xiaohua Wu, Yunwan Wang, and Huizheng Zi. This article will appear in Journal of Renewable and Sustainable Energy on September 27, 2022. Oh, of course. So, okay. Moving on towards next topic, the relationship between geothermal energy and lithium. Hmm. As product manager at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory (NREL), Nicholas Gilroy and Hakeem Sky help turn complex information into a compelling journey on the web. This work allows user to interact with the data, even download information as the story of research unfolds. Working closely with user experience and researcher and engineers, the two helped the US Departments of Energy Geothermal Technology Office (GTO) develop a new lithium story map for Energy Go that lays out the relationship between geothermal energy and lithium via images, animation, maps, and narrative. Since its launch on August 24, 2022, the Lithium Story Map has more than 1600 views. The concept is a first of its kind projector for the Department of Energy website, bringing science to the masses in a way that feels closer to scrolling through social media for knowledge rather than hunkering down with a textbook. The Lithium Story Map allows visitors to scroll through the role of lithium in renewable energy today. So, see how the critical material is currently obtained and understand why the Salton Sea region of California may prove a key domestic source with a little help of geothermal energy. It also explained why GTO investment in technology supporting lithium extraction from geothermal brines is so important to a green economy. It is possible that domestic lithium extraction from geothermal brines could serve a long-term source of this critical material, create clean energy jobs, and lower the cost of lithium use for key products like rechargeable batteries, said Elizabeth Metcalfe, GTO stakeholder engagement lead. We talked with developers Sky and Gilroy right before launch after their processes, how story maps could change the game and what they learned. Story mapping. The term story map originated as a part of ArcGIS mapping software several years ago, but maps and data have told stories for centuries. The stories are often just harder to decipher. GTO and approaches Sky Gilroy with the story map concept in relation to lithium because the form can disseminate high impact takeaways for multiple audiences. For the lithium for the lithium story map in particular, it was important to have a strong narrative to begin with and a clear entry point. Gilroy said. The goal was to set context lithium is something that is all around us in our modern world. If someone can relate, then we have a hook and go to the next level of information describing lithium life cycle, where it comes from and how it's produced, and how we might find new sources to meet the growing demand. He said the use of story map enables NREL to convey why specific research areas or initiative are impact and should be prioritized. This new data visualization is a big departure from the typical way technical information is shared, Sky said. We built something custom that is really, we hope, beautifully and interesting to look at it. John Oliver plus NREL? Question mark. Interesting. Okay. The duo found inspiration to bring the GTO story map vision alive through an unlikely source, a TV talk show last week tonight with John Oliver create a video about the electricity grid, which went on to earn almost 6 million views. Gilroy said the entire video is referencing an NREL report that is sorry this is what NREL does all the time, talking about the transition to clean energy. How is he getting traction? He said. Why are people responding to it? Because he's meeting people where they are at. Peoples are used to consuming something on TVs, YouTube's, or HBO. You have to make it accessible and understood on a mobile device or social platform. Sky said the lithium story maps offer a similar voice. As a user scrolls, you get to see the data over time and tie to key important things that occurred throughout history that are relevant to lithium, he said. It is very passive and effective way for a person to consume information. What is the next for story maps and geothermal? Gilroy said more story maps are in the works for the team as they continue to develop the platform. We are continuously thinking through the user experience, what are the needs, altitudes, attitudes, emotions, and behavior of peoples who use our products, and he said, and how can we meet them, where they'd like to be able to allow them to consume information in ways they are used to. One of the things I love about working at NREL, Sky said, is when there are dual or multi-purpose ways to solve problems like agrivoltaics or solar sidings, geothermal energy generations, plus lithium extraction could be a game changer. Leveraging geothermal plants for the direct extraction of lithium avoids having to create new and expensive specialized infrastructure by using tools and that already exist. The industry can help solve scientific hurdles and advances towards a more renewable future. How many of our devices need lithium? How many items in your home or workplace use lithium and not just use it but could not exist without it? Of course, lithium is an essential ingredient in our day to day lives, yes, as well as the future of renewable energy. Of course, it is the primary component in rechargeable battery for mobile phones and digital cameras, electric vehicles, batteries, and solar panels. Even the non rechargeable batteries found in life saving pacemakers. Right. As lithium demand continued to grow, extraction from geothermal fluids is of growing interest. The underground brine contains the scarce element, meaning geothermal energy may soon play a greater role in our lives and in the green economy. Yes, of course. I mean, deserve it. Okay, moving on to our next topic. Prototype electric airplane take first flight. Yes, true. It's true. Let's see. A prototype all electric airplane took its first flight Tuesday morning in central Washington state. The Seattle Times reports that in the Federal Aviation Administration eventually certifies the small airplane to carry passengers, it could become the first all electric commercial airplane. The plane, built by Startup Aviation, was built to carry 9 passengers and up 2 pilots and took off from Moses Lake, Washington at 7:10 a.m. Tuesday. The plane landed 8 minutes later. The company goal is to show such electric planes are viable as commuter aircraft flying at an altitude of about 15,000 feet, 4,572 meters. The plane, designed by engineers in Washington State and Israel, is powered by 21,500 small Tesla style battery cells. Hmm. Of course. Interesting news, right? Okay, moving on to our next topic. Avoiding a surveillance society. That's the problem in today's life, of course. How better rules can reign in facial recognition tech. Let's see. The human face is special. It is simultaneously public and personal. Our faces reveal sensitive information about us, who we are, of course, but also our gender, emotion, health status, and more. Lawmakers in Australia, like those around the world, never anticipated our face data would be harvested on an industrial scale, then used in everything from our smartphone to police CCTV cameras. So we shouldn't be surprised that our laws have not kept up pace with the extraordinary rise of facial recognition technology. But what kinds of law do we need? The, the technology can be used for both good and ill, so neither banning it nor the current free for all seem ideal. However, our regulatory failure has left our community and vulnerable to harmful use of facial recognition. To fill the legal gap, we propose a model law. Okay, an outline of legislation that governments around Australia could adopt or adapt to regulate risky uses of facial recognition while allowing safe ones. The challenge of facial recognition technologies. The user's case of facial recognition technology seems limited only by our imagination. Many of us think nothing of using facial recognition to unlock our electronic devices. Yet the technology has also been trailed or implemented throughout Australia in a wide range of situations, including school, airports, retail stores, clubs, and gambling avenues, and law enforcement. Right. As the use of facial recognition grows at an estimated 20% annually, so too does the risk to humans, especially in high risk contexts like policing. In the US, reliance on errors prone facial recognition tech has resulted in numerous instances of injustice, especially involving black people. These include the wrongful arrest and detection of Robert Williams and wrongful exclusion of a young black girl from a rollers rink in Detroit. Hmm. Many of the world's biggest tech companies, including Meta, Amazon, and Microsoft, have reduced uh, discontinued their facial recognition related services. They have cited concern about consumer safety and a lack of effective regulation. This is laudable, but it has also prompted a kind of regulatory market failure. While those companies have pulled back, other companies with fewer scruples have taken a bigger share of the facial recognition market. Take the American company Clearview AI. It scraped billions of face images from social media and other websites without the consent of the affected individual. Then created a face matching service that it sold to the Australian Federal Police and other law enforcement bodies around the world. In 2021, the Australian Information and Privacy Commissioner found that both Clearview AI and the AFP had breached Australia privacy laws, but enforcement action like these are rare. Hmm. However, the Australians want better regulation of facial recognition. This has to be shown in the Australian Human Rights Commission 2021 report. The 2020 choice investigation into the use of facial recognition technology by major retailers, and in research we at the Human Technology Institute have commissioned as part of our model law. Option for facial recognition reform. What option does Australia have? The first is to do nothing, but this would mean accepting we will be unprotected from harmful use of facial recognition technologies and keep us on our current trajectory towards mass surveillance. Another option would be a ban facial recognition tech altogether. Some jurisdictions have indeed instead moratoriums moratoriums on the technology, but there certain many exceptions for positive uses and are at best a temporary solution. In our view, the better reform options is a law to regulate facial recognition technologies according to how risky they are. Such a law would encourage facial recognition with clear public benefit while protecting against harmful use of the technology. A risk based law for facial recognition technology regulations. Our model law would require anyone developing or deploying facial recognition systems in Australia to conduct a rigorous impact assessment to evaluate the human rights risk. As the risk levels increases, so too would the legal requirements or restriction. Developers would also be required to comply with the technical standard for facial recognition aligned with the international standard for AI performance and good data management. The model law contains general prohibition on high risk uses of facial recognition application. For example, a facial analysis application that purported to access individual sexual orientation and then make a decision about them would be prohibited. Sadly, this is not a far-fetched hypothetical. The model law also provided three exceptions to the prohibition on high risk facial recognition technology. The regulator could permit a high risk application if it considered the application to be justified under international human right law. There would be a specific legal regime for a law enforcement agency, including a face warrant scheme that would provide independent oversight, as with other such warrants. High risk application may be used in academic research with appropriate oversight, review by the regulator and affected individuals. Any law would need to be enforced by a regulator with appropriate power and resources. Who should this be? The majority of the stakeholders we consulted, including business users, technology firms, and civil society representatives, proposed to the Office of the Australian Information Commissioners (OAIC) would be well suited to the regulatory of facial recognition for certain sensitive users, such as the military, certain and security agencies. There may be also need to be specialized oversight regime. The moment for reform is now. Yes. Never have we seen so many groups and individuals from across civil society, industry, and government so engaged and aligned on the need of facial recognition technology reform. This is reflected in support for the model law from both the Technology Council of Australia and Choice. Hmm. Given the extraordinary rise of uses of facial recognition and emerging consensus among stakeholders, the Federal Attorney General should size this movement and lead national reform. The first priority is to introduce a federal bill which could easily be based on the other model law. The Attorney General should also collaborate with the states and territories to harmonize Australian law on facial recognition. This proposed reform is important on its own terms. We cannot allow facial recognition technology to remain effectively unregulated. It would also demonstrate how Australia can use law to protect against harmful uses of new technology while simultaneously incentivizing innovation for public benefit. More information about the model law can be found in our report Facial Recognition Technologies Towards a Model Law. So, an Australian government been focusing on Australian Parliament test, been focusing on these objects. This domain, which is, I mean, great, which is immense. You can't define it because, of course, through facial technology, it's been facial technology provides you the information about the person, about the how the person thinks, how the human thinking about right now, how those things, how they are managing and how they are communicating. So it's an important feature and it's an important thing to focusing on. And yes, it's been used in the AI to see that these are the things being given to these guys. Or if you are already know that how China uses AI, and on the basis on the facial recognition only, they given the points to their citizens that these citizens given these good points. These are the great individuals. So these are the things going on in the China itself. So it's an important to look around the world thing that how AI in capturing it and how it's been protecting. We are Australian government has identified the problem and given the solution, try to resemble, or the peoples wants to not to have privacy with them, not to sell every privacy to the public or to the big institutions. So it's a great initiative by avoiding surveillance society. So yep, it's far more impressive, I mean. So yep, that's all for the today, guys. And yes, we have already previously discussed in the previous podcast that we have started a newsletter providing in the information which is not easily available on the surface web. And yes, if you are willing to they we've started a free newsletter, of course, and also a paid newsletter. In a paid newsletter which will provide the important key features which will be described in a very detailed manner. But if you're willing to subscribe to the free newsletter, it will provide many other things, many other articles which is being which we are looking to, and the news which will impact in your personal life, maybe after the year or within the months, or few in the months. So if you're interested in that kind of information, subscribe to this newsletter, otherwise leave it. And this podcast is for you guys only, providing in the information that how our researcher keep on researching new things. Till then, keep researching, stay curious, stay healthy.